All right. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Barbara Suits. I am the Open Educational Resources and Instructional Materials Program Manager at OSPI, along with two of my fantastic OSPI colleagues. We're going to be sharing some resources today that we hope you're going to find useful. This is actually our first time out using the YouTube Live option. So like you, we are spreading our wings and trying out some new ways to best communicate with folks and engage with people across the state. So forgive us if we make some mistakes this first time out. Hopefully we'll provide you with a little bit of a chuckle this afternoon, and we will chalk it up to lessons learned and be better next time out. So that said, let's start taking a look at some resources. I'm going to show you some items on our Washington OER Commons Hub. To get there, you're going to visit the URL oercommons.org/hubs/Washington. That URL will appear in the video description below, so take a look there. I'm going to scroll down just a bit, and we're going to head to the continuous learning suggestions section of this platform. If you are new to the Washington OER Commons Hub, then please visit the 30-minute video we have. That's an overview of the platform and gives you some idea about the organization of the site and what resources that you'll be able to find here. That also will be linked in the video description box below. The resource that I want to show you first is actually located in several of these different collections for educators and parents and our youngest learners. But I'm just going to click in the parents collection for now. The two ones that I'm going to be pointing out, the first one, reading in the time of COVID-19. We've had a lot of questions from folks around the state about access to online texts, and this resource is in response to that. Here you're going to be able to find links to texts that you can read online, but also that you can download and put on a mobile device so that students that don't have access to the internet might be able to use their cell phone to actually take advantage of some reading. You're also going to find links to read alouds that are read by authors themselves or by actors or by astronauts even. We also have links to sites like Bookshare. So if you have students with reading barriers, they'll be able to access online texts as well. To take advantage of this resource, you can certainly view all of the content online, but you can also download it to your Google Classroom, or if you have another LMS, you can download it in a number of different formats that you'll be able to pull into your LMS systems. You can also simply download the PDF resource and then share this in print or digital format with your students and their families. Another resource that I'd like to point out, back up one, is the Public Television at Home Learning resource. Public broadcasting affiliates around the state of Washington have actually changed their programming schedule a little bit. And so between the hours of 9 a.m. and 2 p.m., they have scheduled educational content programming specific for 6th through 12th graders. This resource right here will provide a link for you to get to the site where you can enter your zip code and find the schedule for those programs in your area. It also links to the PBS Learning site so that you can see some companion resources that go along with the content that's being broadcast. So with that, I am going to turn you over to our spectacular social science specialist, Jerry Price, who's going to share a few resources on his end.
Terrific. Thank you, Barbara. I am Jerry Price. I'm the Program Supervisor for Social Studies at the Office of Superintendent of Public Instruction. I've been getting a lot of questions from the field, both teachers and districts, about Washington State history. As those of you in the field know, Washington State history is a graduation requirement, but it is not required to receive a high school credit. You can provide Washington State history in middle school, and that can count towards your graduation requirement in high school. And so there's been a lot of concern with students, obviously, with asynchronous learning and with their textbooks perhaps trapped in the buildings, about what can teachers do in order to make sure that students can still meet that requirement. For Washington State history, I have the language up here for the WAC that's on the OSPI Social Studies website. And it simply says that we need to include information about the Constitution and about Native people and their culture, as well as other Washington State-centric materials. And so I thought that I would spend a few minutes showing you some resources that we've site, but that we've pulled together to make them easier to get to on the OER. And so I'm going to go ahead and share with you once again. If you go to the Washington OER site that Barbara showed you, then what you should see is down below the Apple logo there is the Washington State Social Studies logo. And if we were to click on that, and I'm having sometimes connectivity issues, so I've opened these all up in tabs so I don't have to wait for them to load. But if you were to click on the Washington State Social Studies icon, then you would end up on this page. And you can see here, as I'm moving my visual over from left to right so I can see. We have folders on the left-hand side that show you the different materials, how they're stratified. And then on the right, depending on which folder you're in, it's going to show you what are the materials that are there. And so you can see that we have 21 materials that we've cataloged or curated for Washington State history specifically. And I wanted to take you through a few that I think might be most helpful to you. And so if we were to click on the Washington State history site and go in here, one of the things that we would see, or one of the resources, is from the National Museum of the American Indian. It's from Native Knowledge 360, their digital platform. And it is called Why Do the Foods We Eat Matter? And it is an inquiry centered around food sovereignty and the ways of Native people in Washington State. These two, there are two of them actually. There's this one on food sovereignty and one on the fish wars. And so I wanted to show you this one specifically. So if we were to click View Resource, then we would get to this screen, which says, why do the foods we eat matter? You'd see a lesson overview. You would see essential understandings in the academic standards that are covered. And then you're going to see teacher instructions and student instructions. And some of these materials are printable and available. So if your students don't have connectivity, you could certainly print out these materials and distribute them to them in whatever way you're doing that. But we also have quite a few things that are digital. For example, this is about a 7-minute video that is animated with student voices narrating it about the tribal people of the Pacific Northwest. There are some interactive maps. And there are some video games as well, such as this one where you are a salmon trying to navigate your way up to spawn through various barriers, including dams and pollution and other man-made barriers to your final destination. So those are ways that you could include either digital or written materials for Native American history and culture. And then another material I thought that you might be interested in is, you may have a textbook that you're using in your classroom that your students are unable to access because they don't have digital code or because the books are not available. I wanted to let you know that the League of Women Voters of Washington State has created an online textbook called The State We're In, and OSPI has created some teacher and student-facing materials and resources for the first several chapters of that. And we have more on the way in the next couple of weeks as we finish up work on those. And so the first 4 chapters have teacher and student-facing resources available along with the chapters. So if we were to click on View Resources here, we would get to a list of the different chapters that are available in PDF format. And I've opened up one of those, which is Chapter 8. And I'm not sure it's going to work, so I may run away from this very quickly since it's not loading correctly. So I'm going to go ahead and ignore that and tell you about, as it loads, one other resource, which is iCivics, which is a video game and a set of lessons that goes along with civic education. It was started by Sandra Day O'Connor, who is a Supreme Court justice, obviously, as she wanted to get more civics into the classroom. And she created iCivics, which has a series of video games that students can play to learn about different civic resources. And we actually have iCivics Washington, and iCivics Washington has resources and materials and lessons that are specific to Washington State, including several lesson plans and games that are associated with state and local government. So the idea of federalism, the ideas of how does local government decide where taxes go and what kind of, should we fund parks, or do we need to fund, is there money for recreational materials and whatnot. So there's a lot of good games that students can play. And unfortunately, I have frozen up, so I'm not going to be able to show you that at this time. But just trust me that they are terrific and well worth your time with both written and student-facing materials that are digital as well, and a lot of fun for kids. I've played them in my classroom as a middle school teacher for a long time, and I know that elementary students can also, and high school, all the way through high school, can play those games in order to get some civic education. So those are a few resources available. I'm sorry that my system has crashed on us, so I couldn't show you everything, but at this time, I'm going to go ahead and kick it over to Ellen Ebert with science. Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you, Jerry. Thank you, Barb. So Jerry, as you stop screen share, I'll bring mine up. And welcome, everybody. I'm Ellen Ebert. I'm the Director for Science Education in the Learning and Teaching program. And I also direct environmental and sustainability education as well. So in my little bit of time with you today, I'd like to share some resources that we've been developing. We were fortunate enough to be able to get in on the OER Commons site, but we spent some time talking to our teachers and trying to put our materials together so that they would be helpful. So what we did in this time period is that we've created a few documents. This one that I'm opening up right now, sorry to make you dizzy like that, is the K2 document for what can be done at home realistically. So not a lot of materials required. Some of the materials that are on this resource are in both English and Spanish. We have some information here that explains the licensure, and all of the documents are available to download. But the big thing here is that we took the resources knowing that at home it might be a little difficult for teachers to try and figure out you know, where and which materials to use. So we tried to find really engaging activities that align to our state standard and specifically to our state performance expectations. So we've, as much as possible, we have a balance between materials that are digitally available as well as materials that are printable, because our science teachers specifically were very keen to have materials that were paper pencil, and that many of which could be done outdoors. So in this, what we've done here is we have a balance between some commercial resources as well as teacher developed resources. And so we've also included the permissions and maybe a sentence or two about what the resource is trying to accomplish. Below each one, we've tried to make the connections to the Common Core ELA and mathematics standards so that teachers can see how to integrate the lessons as much as possible. And so this follows through all the way down to K2, to the second grade. So there's a bit of a progression in some of the activities. We've tried to focus on some websites that were very accessible, very easy to use, and that were very engaging. So we've only listed a few here. I'm going to pop over to K3 and show you there as well that we have materials that are also aligned to the learning standards and are also in both digital formatting as well as printable materials. And so this one progresses all the way through to 5th grade And some of these activities are Washington grown. They are developed by different organizations across the state and are kind of fun to use. We have another resource on the OER Commons that is our Climb Time initiative, and there are a wealth of information in here that you can use with students at home. Many of these activities are outside activities and can be done very easily with children at home. And then finally, I wanted to share with you that we are doing a virtual conference next week. So that is on Monday and Wednesday next week. We have 20 sessions that we've built across the day. So starting at 8:30 in the morning and finishing in the evening. And we tried to have sessions that we thought would be engaging for teachers. And the sessions are approved for clock hours and in some cases STEM clock hours, and they're all free. Enrollment is through PD Enroller. We've had a lot of enthusiasm. We opened registration yesterday and we've had quite a bit of enthusiasm. So we may be repeating the sessions again in later in May, maybe doing something again differently in June. So it's certainly a site to keep bookmarked. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Barb. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks again for joining us. If you find this content useful, please consider clicking on the like and subscribe buttons below, and you will be alerted about the next time that we go live with additional resource suggestions. In the meantime, everybody stay well, take care, and have a good afternoon. Bye, everybody.